texasdirector.org and taking Step Forward, your Texas Director Credentialing Program. We're going to spend a little bit of time, and I mean a real little bit of time, talking about food and nutrition. In your book, you have a food and nutrition chapter. It's health, food, and nutrition. And we're going to kind of break this lecture or this talking points into a couple of different sections. First, in food and nutrition, this area is extremely regulated, both on a state level as well as a city and county level. So anything that we might discuss in our book or as examples in this lecture, please check with your local health inspector, whether it's a city level or a county level, because things can change. And we'll talk about some things that have changed, and things change constantly. We've been teaching this class for the last 8 years, and things constantly change. One of the things that you're going to notice in the book is you're going to notice food pyramid. You're going to notice discussion about the food program or reduced school lunch program, which is a great opportunity for you as a program to get reimbursed if you have a lot of children in your program whose family meet that free or reduced lunch qualification on income. One of the things that I'd like to do, in addition to talking to you kind of about what is healthy, you're going to read in the book a little bit about the different food programs, minimum standards, Texas regulations, also have some requirements related to food offered in your program. But one of the things that you need to understand is that interpretation of healthy. So you may have families that have a different interpretation than you do. Texas regulations or Texas minimum standards have a different set of what is healthy compared to this free and reduced lunch program. And one of the things that you need to also look at is the kids in your program. If you're offering food, look at the culture in your program, the parents in your program. Make sure you have diversity in your menu, not only fresh, frozen, what is canned. Again, related to canning, vitamin A is diminished a lot of times in canned foods. All right, so one of the things when looking at fresh, frozen, or canned vegetables or canned fruit is one of the things you need to think about is whether or not there's a vitamin A requirement, and is the food that you're serving trying to meet that vitamin A requirement? Because if it's canned, you have no vitamin A. A couple other things that you might want to think about. One of the things I've heard programs often say is, I don't want to offer food, that's more of a hassle than it's worth. And one of the things I do all throughout this course is talk to you about marketing, making yourself a little different than your competitors. If everybody in your community is offering food, and that's kind of a standard, then you're going to need to do that. If you're worried about the expenses, look at things like the federal food program. The other thing I like to recommend to folks to do is to come up with a 30-day menu and get into 30-day freezer cooking. Freezer cooking is a great way to save money, reduce your stress, and take care of that one component ahead of time. So you can plan, you get money up front, and you save an awful lot of money by doing freezer cooking and freezing in batches. Other things are coming up with your menus 30 days in advance so that you can take advantage of sales that go on at your local grocery store. Watch for coupons. Don't be ashamed to take advantage of things that are going to save your program money. So in addition to understanding, kind of knowing that your interpretation of healthy might be different than regulatory versions of healthy versus family versions of healthy. Health and what you expect to see in lunches is also a really good thing to have in your policies and procedures. Do you want families sending soda and candy bars home or to school in their lunches, even if it's a Lunchable? What is the policy related to the candy in that Lunchable? That should be in your policy and procedure manual, as well as your parent policies. Serving style. How do you serve? Do you put the food on the kids' plates? Is the food served family style and the kids get to learn how to put the food on their plate? Again, this is what works best for your program. Understand what your staff are comfortable with. If you serve this a specific way to the students in your program, make sure to include that in your staff training and orientation plan. The last thing I want to do related to food and nutrition is to talk a little bit how you can pull this into curriculum, how you can pull this into your marketing. Now, we've talked before about knowing the interests of your staff and getting them excited, and we used the example of having a staff person who might really be interested in gardening or organic gardening. Junior Master Gardener has curriculum available for pre-K kids. It's a great opportunity to incorporate literature into the classroom. They have one that includes books and literature in the garden, reading in the garden. It's also a great opportunity, food and nutrition, to bring parents into the program and discuss what is appropriate and how to make sure that your kids are getting enough or too little. So being aware of also childhood obesity, and is this a problem within your program? Now, having a garden on the school grounds, again, it can be a great marketing tool, a great opportunity to pull the kids into curriculum with that, but you can also serve that food. So including carrots and lettuce and spinach, things that grow quickly that kids get to feel and touch and they get to use in their own classroom as a snack is also a great opportunity. You can network with different organizations that offer things in your community. If you can't find good resources, there's always programs or websites such as kidsgardening.org, which is the National Kids Gardening Association. There's always master naturalists and master gardeners in your county area, and that would be found through your county extension office. Food and nutrition not only can be incorporated into your curriculum, should be incorporated into your staff training, but your staff orientation, but it can be also incorporated into your staff training. Make sure that the staff in your program can get excited about the fresh fruits and vegetables that your program might be offering the kids because the kids grew them on site. The last thing you want are staff rolling their nose or making funny faces at the kids because they're eating spinach. Get your staff as excited about it as well. There are all kinds of programs. You'll always see different partners getting involved with the MyPyramid program, mypyramid.gov. Currently is collaborative with a lot of the Disney billboards that you might see in your community. There's great things online. During the taping of this video, the First Lady has become a real supporter of doing things, getting kids up, getting kids moving, kind of reducing childhood obesity. When we've talked about what is your motivation, what is your advocacy platform related to your marketing, one of those can be childhood obesity. And I've seen lots of childcare programs that have come back and sponsored Little League teams. They actually have soccer classes and soccer clinics on their, in their program, so that the kids don't have to go do soccer after school. They can do it there. And it's a great opportunity to bring in college students who have lots of energy and they can be out there running with the kids and doing soccer. So get excited about the food and nutrition aspect of your program. Don't put this as another thing I've got to do. It's a great thing to delegate. If this is not a monkey you want, find a staff person in your program who is willing to embrace this monkey, who gets real excited about healthy food and great tasting food and introducing the kids to different types of food. Health, food, and nutrition. All three of these areas work real closely together, and you've just heard my talk related to food and nutrition and getting your staff and families and parents and kids excited and involved. The other thing that we need to look at is the health component. Now, the health component covers a broad spectrum from immunizations for staff for immunizations for your kids, medical forms on your kids, and medical forms on your staff. One of the things I'd like to strongly encourage you to do is to make sure that you do have medical forms on each staff member and that those are updated regularly. A lot of times we're familiar with the process of checking off the files for each kid, making sure that as kids hit new age brackets and on their birthdays, they're thinking about remembering to get those shots. It's kind of a strange birthday card, but you know it works, and get those parents to remember that their kids need those shots. But you want to be doing the same thing on your staff's annual anniversary and get them to go get new physicals and make sure that they're okay. You want your staff to be healthy and ready to work in your program. When you're looking at the health of your students and you're looking at the health of your staff, this is the largest part of Texas minimum standards, the regulations that control your program. Please, please, please make sure that you watch the updates, that you're looking at what is a new requirement, whether it's a change in immunizations for the kids in your program, whether it is a change in ratio. This all comes back to the health of the kids in your program. So we're really hoping that you're going to take some time in minimum standards. The regulations section of the textbook as well as the regulations section of this video, both are we're kind of expecting you to have a copy of Texas minimum standards while looking through this. Now go ahead and pause the video, take some time, read the health, food, and nutrition chapter. You have a couple of different assignments. One assignment is taking a look at a menu, comparing that menu to Texas minimum standards as well as to the food program and kind of trying to determine what the difference is. The other part is making sure that you really understand what records you do and do not need to keep. My last thing I really want to make sure that I express to you and help you understand is that aspect of choking. You'll find a lot of charts and different categories for food, and you've probably even heard people talk about a tool called a choke tube. Now, a choke tube is usually about 2 inches long, and it's no bigger in diameter than a normal paper towel or toilet paper roll. But a lot of times we find things that we use every day that would fall into a choking hazard. This might be common snacks such as Cheerios, Goldfish, even crackers are gonna meet those requirements. But because that food is all digested in your mouth and it's broken down by the enzymes in your mouth, you're not going to choke on these foods. Doesn't mean that you may not turn blue if you get enough Cheerios down your throat, but there's no way that you are going to be able to die. This is not that kind of choking hazard. Grapes are a good example. The inside of the grape, you're not going to die from. However, the cellulose on the outside of the grape doesn't break down with the enzymes in your mouth. When you are looking at the snacks and food that you offer in your program, it's really important that you look at how those foods respond by themselves as well as are they better off paired with another type of food. Carbohydrates and simple sugars are a good example of things that are affected by your glycemic index. One of the things that we always encourage folks to do is to couple those with proteins or fats. Bagels with cream cheese. This is a good example of something that is a natural pairing. Cheese and crackers. The glycemic index for most children will give them kind of a high after those carbohydrates break down to simple sugars. And that high is usually about an hour to an hour and a half after they've eaten those. And then it's going to go down. And that downward spiral, that downward effect, is going to put them into a lower, just a lower energy level than they had before. And a lot of times our programs work out really well for that. We'll have a snack, then we'll go outside and play, then we'll come in and eat lunch, and then in about an hour later we're taking a nap. You know, it makes sense when you start to look at our program, but you need to understand it as the director so that you understand that the foods you put in your menu may or may not be good for the kids in your program. So it's worth asking, it's worth getting advice. Again, know what your parents do for a living. The last thing you want to find out later, especially if this is a monkey that you absolutely hate, is to find out that you have a parent who loves to do menus or a parent who has a background in nutrition. Just because somebody's in the medical field, nursing or a doctor, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a nutritionist. Most doctors and nurses have at most one semester of nutrition in their entire education career. So it's worth asking the questions. It's worth learning yourself. Food managers, licenses, as well as food handlers and food managers, those are two credentials and requirements that are showing up more and more in programs as far as things that the cities and counties in your area may need. These are going to be done at a statewide level, primarily through the state health department. So if you're not sure, ask the question. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you if you didn't ask. So ask your county and city health departments if you are required to have a food handler's or a food manager's license to be able to prepare food in your program. Make sure that your kitchens are inspected regularly for that kind of situation. Again, this is one of those, we're getting ready to spend a little time talking about environmental design, which is really about your facility. And in that section, one of the things I'm going to talk to you about is just because something's been a child care center doesn't always mean that it's a good location for a child care center. And kitchens are a great example. What might have worked as an okay kitchen or a commercial kitchen for a program 4, 5, 6 years ago when they were initially licensed as a program may not work for you today. So make sure that you get those inspected, you ask those questions before you sign those leases. Have a great day, read that following section, and we are going to come back and talk a lot about safety, supervision, as well as environmental design.